that France is the first stop for Xi Jinping on this three-nation tour of Europe. So war in Ukraine was obviously going to be one of the key topics that were discussed. But what have we heard from both sides about this?
Yeah, and I think you talked about it yesterday, how key going to France first and then Serbia and Hungary. He's not necessarily going to get an earful like he would in other places because, again, the fact remains that the European Union is sort of aligning itself more towards a U.S. position towards China on trade on a number of issues and potential tariffs on EVs and the like, and also, of course, the security threat with the war in Ukraine into its third year right now, and that is at front and center. So, you know, Xi Jinping in many ways sort of bristled at some of the I wouldn't say allegations, but the suggestion that essentially that the United States has made, of course, that China in indirect ways is aiding Putin's war in Ukraine, whether it's dual-use technologies that end up on the battlefield or the like. And as I said, you know, observers in France sort of described Xi Jinping as bristling when this was raised. And I will quote what Xi Jinping said about that. He says, Beijing is not aiding Russia's war in Ukraine, said Beijing is not at the origin of this crisis, nor a party to it, nor a participant. Very, very absolute terminology there. He also then referred to the United States and its efforts to essentially get a coalition together against China in many ways. He said, we oppose this crisis, the one in Ukraine, being used to place responsibility on a third country, he's alluding to China, of course, and tarnish its image and incite a new Cold War. So again, this is Xi Jinping's first trip to the EU in 5 years, and clearly he has a mission to offer the Europeans China's economic benefits, while at the same time making sure to fend off the tide that is happening in Europe of aligning with the United States, which clearly Xi Jinping feels is stirring the pot.